Welcome to the Alcohol-Free Lifestyle podcast, where you learn to live a life of health, wealth, love, and happiness.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. This is Victoria English, head coach at Alcohol-Free Lifestyle. I'm excited about today's topic, and I think you will be too. It's an empowering topic, and at first blush might take you by surprise when I say this to you. Did you know that you are very capable of having the same mindset as an Olympic athlete? Yep, I said that. Like millions of people around the world, I love the Olympics. I love the sport of it. I love the art of each athlete shining bright, doing their very, very best. I also love the humanity of it, that just for a period of time, we can put aside differences and unite. We can cheer for the athletes when they do well. We grab our heart and clasp our hands when they make a mistake, and we cheer them on anyway. It's a wonderful part of being human. Like a lot of you, I sit there and I watch these incredible athletes perform these incredible feats, and I think, wow, how do they do that? How did they get that good? I mean, many of us have some athletic inclination, but wow, right? And so it got me thinking, when I stopped drinking, finally, for the last time, I would see people who had 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years. And I would be in complete awe. How did you do it? How are you walking around looking like a normal human being when in fact you have superhero cape on? Wow. And as I continued to pursue this line of thinking, I started to consider the similarities between releasing alcohol and becoming a master of a sport. So I started reading some articles, and I found one in the very popular publication Psychology Today about the Olympic mindset. It was an article written by Dr. Kurt Ella. He's a clinical psychologist and psychoanalyst and an associate professor at Georgetown University School of Medicine. This gentleman works with many people, and some of them are elite athletes. He has also worked with Olympians. Today, we're going to talk about some of the things that Dr. Ella identified that set Olympic athletes apart. And I'm going to flex a little about alcohol-free lifestyle and the mindset that is adopted by our members, by our Olympians, those members who come in and are willing to be coached, are willing to take direction, just like those athletes. The ones who complete 90 days and they get that award, that badge. And then they complete 6 months and they get another badge. And then they get to a year. It's such an honor to be a part of that experience. And so what goes on in the mind of an Olympic athlete, and how can you take on some of those qualities as you face what may seem now a Herculean task. One thing that Dr. Ella identified about Olympic athletes is that they recover quickly, not just physically. Obviously, these individuals are in excellent health and their bodies are primed to heal appropriately and in a timely manner from physical injuries. However, what really sets them apart is the way that they recover mentally. Olympians, as amazing as they are flesh and bone, and they're human, and they're fallible. And as I mentioned, when we see that happen, we're cheering them on. Sometimes we observe them experiencing crushing mistakes, and we think, will they be able to go on? Not because their body is broken, but we wonder, is their mind broken? Olympians don't define themselves by their last mistake. They learn from it. They go back and they identify, when did things start to go off the rails? How can I learn from that error? In typical, quote, recovery, there is a lot of emphasis on the past, on admitting, talking about again, talking to other people about your mistakes. That can be helpful to an extent. And for some people, it works and is a long-term solution to their alcohol issue. I don't come from any judgment around how anyone stops drinking. If you're listening to this podcast, you might be considering if our methodology is something that you might incorporate into your plan. And so I'll discuss that part, what we do. How are we at AFL a little bit like those Olympic athletes? Well, I spent a lot of time talking about my past, talking about how many times I drank when I wasn't going to, when I had promised I wasn't going to, about the things that I said and did that were not aligned with my character, my values. In hindsight, well, and the evidence indicated, it wasn't a sustainable solution. Sometimes the shame and embarrassment would keep me from drinking when I would have a craving. But I didn't feel like I was truly mining the gold from the mistakes. I wasn't using those things to empower me as I move forward. It was distracting. If you notice anything about these Olympic athletes, it's that they are not distracted. And so the same way that they can get up from a fall and perform again, compete, continue the competition. And we're sitting there going, holy cow, how do they put that out of their head? That's what we are training ourselves, our minds to do in alcohol-free lifestyle. We don't pretend that these things didn't happen. What we do is learn from them. Okay, that happened when I was drinking, and that bad thing happened when I was drinking. What's the common denominator? The alcohol. It seems like most bad things that happen in my life happen when alcohol is involved. Now, the logical mind would say, duh, don't drink anymore, except this is a drug. So it's different. However, in AFL, we're teaching you the science around what this drug does, how it takes you out of alignment with who you really are, and how to learn from it. How to take those defeats, those setbacks, and accelerate your path forward with a vigor and an excitement, recognizing that you have a choice. If those Olympic athletes just let their mind run nilly-willy, would they really have a choice when they got up to compete the next time? Or would the past and their mind decide for them? We all like to have choices. We all like to feel that we have agency over our own lives. They are seeking opportunities. They refuse to stay stuck. And you can do the same. This is this same sort of mindset that has helped me not just release alcohol, but embrace a life that is in alignment, that is moving me in the right direction, not the perfect direction, not a over the moon happy trajectory at all times, but I'm on the right path. And that feels amazing. And so those athletes may or may not win the competition, but they are really, really certain that they are on the path to victory. Another thing that Dr. Ella identified was that Olympians are emotionally intelligent. We can see this with certain athletes. Some will be cool as a cucumber, right? You'll see the athlete with the big arena around them, cheering, shouting, music, and you'll see them sitting in a meditative state, cool as a cucumber. Others will be riding the wave of all that energy. It's feeding them. It's fueling them. Again, going back to a word that my mom loved, willy-nilly, this is intentional. They have recognized, likely through coaching and a growth mindset, that emotions are not one size fits all. They've learned through practice what works for them and what could bait them into losing their edge. It is amazing to see how they can personalize their experience to meet their needs. Well, what does that have to do with releasing alcohol? What does that have to do with the members that I coach here at AFL? Well, if you've listened to enough of these podcasts, and certainly if you join one of our programs, you'll learn more and more about what alcohol is as a substance, what this drug does. In particular, what it does to our emotions. If we want to be emotionally intelligent, how do we get there if we're consuming a depressant, an addictive substance that hijacks our prefrontal cortex, which is I like to call the smart part of our brain, responsible for decision making, executive function, planning. How do we do that when we are driven by more primitive emotions because of the effect that alcohol has on our amygdala? How do we become emotionally intelligent when the space between a trigger and our reaction is so small? When we release alcohol, we move into response mode. And so we get to choose our response in any situation, whether that is someone offering us a drink, a professional situation, a relationship, managing stress, all the things that maybe we drank over. And so what works for you, you might not know exactly just yet. But here's a good place to start. You know what doesn't work. And that's enough. So imagine if one of those athletes who's found that they do best when they are calm and collected and meditative, imagine if they saw what their friend did and said, oh, I want to be like them. That looks fun. That looks good. And then they recognize, ooh, nope, that didn't work. Would they go back and do it again? Probably not. They'd say, no, I know what works for me. And so with alcohol out of your system, out of your brain and your body, you might not know what works for you just yet. But with coaching and a community of like-minded individuals dealing with a lot of the same life stuff as you, chances are you can find it out. You know, James, David, Terry, and I, we're not just coaches. We've lived much of what our members have experienced. And we found what works for us while maintaining that growth mindset of, is this still serving me? Is it time to shift gears and try something else? And that's what makes life fun, having that growth mindset. Except it doesn't come without being aware of your emotions. The truth is, every single one of us was drinking or are drinking, if you're still in the cycle of drinking, to either escape emotions or access emotions. Is it sustainable? Is that what you want? Do you want your emotional intelligence, your tolerance to emotions, to be dictated by a highly addictive drug that's making other people wealthy? There comes that choice again. It's a yes or no. Another thing about Olympic athletes is that they do not think they will perform well. They know it. They use different tactics. They use past experiences, times that they've succeeded. They use visualization. They have seen the outcome in their minds many, many times before it happens. I was watching the men's gymnastics last night, and it was so thrilling to see these guys break, I think it was a 16-year streak in the Olympics where the men's team had not medaled. I don't think it was a surprise to them. They saw it. They saw it happen. They saw their performances happening. They saw themselves on the podiums. And they recognized that the space between that podium and where they were in the year or two before getting there really, really matters. They were willing to delay gratification. They were willing to put in the work to achieve that vision. Are you? When members come in, they will sometimes say, well, I have a vacation coming up. It's in 3 weeks. And I'm scared and not sure if I'm going to make it. What if an Olympic athlete said that to their coach? And again, I'm not saying that vulnerability isn't welcome. Of course, they've said, I feel this, or I feel nervous, or whatever. That's part of the experience. Except, is that a mindset that's going to serve them long term? And so when I'm coaching, I'll use certain techniques. How does that person show up? The person that's afraid, that's feeling doubtful if they can get through the day without drinking. What are the outcomes probably going to look like? Well, it's not an outcome that anybody wants, that's for sure. But then we shift our mindset. And I invite them to imagine the person showing up at that event. What are you wearing? What are you talking about? What are you drinking? How does your skin look? How about your eyes? Do your clothes fit the same? Maybe now that you're not as swollen and bloated, your clothes fit a little better. Maybe fewer bags under your eyes. Perhaps you've learned some things because you're not wasting hours and hours drinking. So maybe you have a cool book that you want to talk about, or a movie that you've seen, or whatever, something new going on in your life. By adopting that mindset, it's far more likely that they're going to show up every day in preparation for that person at the party, right? Because they recognize, the same way that Olympic athletes recognize, that it doesn't happen automatically. It's consistency, it's practice, it's confidence, it's knowing where you don't want to be anymore and giving yourself, you can do it, guys, permission to dream about something better for yourself. You can do that. Alcohol's weird. It can help us, it can sort of cloud our vision of ourselves, and we might believe, I'm not worthy of that life. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. If you've listened to podcasts with our graduates, do you ever listen to those and go, well, that guy doesn't deserve that? That lady, she's not worthy of a good life? No. We're all good people with good hearts, good values. Alcohol can blur that temporarily. But again, you have a choice. Does it get to keep telling you your worth? Does it get to keep not just disrupting your future, but disrupting your daily life? Those Olympic athletes, they are special. And they know it. They know they're worthy. They know they are capable. They're imperfect. Doubts will come. Doubts will come while you're in this program with us. You'll have moments where you feel like your cape is about to burst out, your superhero cape. And you'll have moments where you're not sure. And that's why, again, you have coaches who have lived it, who study this, who've done thousands and thousands of hours of coaching around these very topics. And you've got, just like the Olympic athletes, your teammates. Did you see how those guys cheered for each other last night? We do that in our community. We celebrate every single win. And when someone is hurting or having a rough time, we lift them up. We remind them of their worth. We remind them that they're not alone. And the sun rises the next day and they wake up without a hangover. That's pretty special. And so as you continue to cheer on your favorite athletes, as you continue to cheer on your country, maybe some other countries that you're pulling for, try this on. Try on the mindset of an Olympic athlete. If you're listening to this podcast, you're aware that something isn't working, right? Something's blocking you. And yes, alcohol is a highly addictive substance, and that's a factor. But mindset matters. Surround yourself with people who are in that growth mindset. And go for the gold. If this resonated, go ahead and book that 15-minute discovery call. I promise it's going to be easier than some of the team practices these athletes have. Whew. Could be a huge breakthrough for you and for us. We love what we do. We love helping others. So go ahead and book that. It's free, 15 minutes. And let's see. Until next time, have a great day and take good care.